So next is, let us see about the interaction of neutrons. So the neutrons represent a major category of radiation that consists of uncharged particles. Owing to the absence of the Coulomb force, the neutrons may penetrate many centimeters through the solid materials before they interact in any manner. When they do interact, it is primarily with the nuclei of the atoms of the absorbing material. The types of interaction that are important in the detection of neutrons are again catastrophic, since the neutrons may either disappear or they may undergo a major change in their energy and direction. So the neutrons, when they interact, they will undergo a major change in their energy and also in their directions. So in the case of gamma rays, such major interactions produce fast electrons. But here in neutrons, the interactions result in the formation of energetic heavy charged particles. The task of detecting the uncharged neutron is thus transformed into one of the measuring the directly absorbed result of the energy deposited in the detector by the secondary charged particles which are produced. Because the types of interactions that are useful in the neutron detection are different from the neutrons of different energies, it is convenient to subdivide the discussion into slow neutron and fast neutron interaction mechanisms. So we will be having slow neutron interaction and also fast neutron interaction mechanisms. So let us now see about the slow neutron interaction. They are defined as neutrons whose kinetic energy is very below 1 electron volt. They frequently undergo elastic scattering interactions with the nuclei and may in the process transfer a fraction of their energy to the interacting nucleus. Because the kinetic energy of the neutron is low, however, the resulting recoil nucleus does not have enough energy to be classified as an ionizing particle. Instead, the important interactions for the detection of the slow neutrons involve nuclear reactions in which a neutron is absorbed by the nucleus and charged particles are formed. So, here we see that the neutrons are very low energy and they will interact and they will produce a neutron which is absorbed by the nucleus, and hence it will produce charged particles. All the reactions of interest in slow neutron detectors are exoenergetic, meaning that an amount of energy is released in their reaction. The charged particles are produced with a large amount of kinetic energy supplied by the nuclear reaction. Therefore, the products of these reactions are ionizing particles and they interact in much the same way as the previously described. For direct radiations consists of heavy charged particles. So they behave similar to the radiations which have heavy charged particles. So that is about the neutrons. Next is about the fast neutrons. Neutrons whose kinetic energy is above 1 keV are generally classified as fast neutrons. The neutron-induced reactions most commonly employed for detecting slow neutrons have a low probability of occurrence once the neutron energy is high. The detectors that are based on these reactions may be quite efficient for slow neutron, but they are inefficient for detecting the fast neutron. The fast neutron detectors are most commonly based on the elastic scattering of the neutron from the nuclei. They exploit the fact that a significant fraction of the neutron's kinetic energy can be transferred to the nucleus that it strikes, producing an energetic recoil nucleus. So when a fast neutron falls on a nucleus, it will produce an energetic recoil nucleus. This recoil nucleus behaves in much the same way as any other heavy charged particle as it slows down and loses its energy in the observer. The amount of energy transferred varies from nearly zero for a grazing angle scattering to a maximum for the case of head-on collision. So there will be also a large amount energy variations. The hydrogen is the common choice for the target nucleus, for example, and the resulting recoil protons serve as the basis for many types of fast neutron detectors. So for all other elements, heavier nucleus limits the maximum energy transfer for in a case of single scattering to only a fraction of the neutron energy. In any elastic scattering interaction, the energy that is not transferred to the recoil nucleus is retained by the scattered neutron, which, depending on the dimension of the detector, may interact again or simply escape from the detector volume. So this is how we can detect the materials which are the radiations which are coming. So we will be having the instrumented fluxeton and the silicon vertex tracker. So here there is a drift chamber. The function of each one is different. So we will be having a CSI TA crystal and a solenoid, and everything is used to determine the different types of radiations which are coming out as a result of the interaction. Here we have state neutron interaction. We can have the experiment which has a single detector elements are placed around the interaction zone in several alloys following a cylindrical symmetry. So reconstruct the decay vertices with a spatial resolution. We have the detectors which are placed close to the interaction point of detecting the charged particles. So we have to measure the specific ionization in the drift chamber layers, which allows the identification of the charged particles. For high momenta alone, it will not discriminate sufficiently between the Poissons and the kaons. For this purpose, we have a detector which is placed between the drift chamber and the subsequent electromagnetic calorimeter. The electromagnetic calorimeter consists of several thousands of crystals, that is CSI crystals, and measures the energy of the electrons or the positrons and the photons. Behind the electromagnetic calorimeter, we will be having a 1 Tesla solenoid, and this is followed immediately by a magnetic ion flux return. The flux return is instrumented with several layers of neon detectors. So all the energies will be detected as a result which is coming up. High energetic neons will penetrate all the detector materials in front of the instrumented flux return. If high energetic Poissons will reach the instrumented flux return, the energy deposition will look differently with respect to the signal which is caused by the muons. That is, we can detect the elements which are placed as a result, which are created as a result of the interaction. So this is how we can detect the materials which are the radiations which are coming. So we will be having the instrumented fluxeton and the silicon vertex tracker. So here there is a drift chamber. The function of each one is different. So we will be having a CSI TA crystal and a solenoid, and everything is used to determine the different types of radiations which are coming out as a result of the interaction. So this is the charged particle interaction with the observer atoms. So we will be having the orbital electron of the observer atom or the nucleus of the observer atom getting affected. So depending on the electron or the nucleus, we have different types of interactions, whether it is a pair production or quantum scattering. Okay. So it will be happening with the outermost orbit or with the nucleus of the atom. So we will be having the elastic scattering. Also we will be having the inelastic scattering, which is LCP, which is cast radiation loss emission of from astronomy. So hard and the direct hard collision loss will also happen. The penetration of the nucleus or nuclear reaction may happen, and we will be having the positron in-flight annihilation radiation loss. So all these types are the different types of radiation parameters which are used to establish that when the gamma rays or the X-rays or the neutrons interact with any matter. So when they are interacting, we will be having different types of reactions which are happening within the material. So uncharged particle interaction and charged particle interaction. The uncharged particle interaction interacts with the matter and gives rise to the release of charged particles, whereas the charged particles will transfer their energy to the medium through which they pass. Here, the small number of interactions with a large energy loss will happen in the case of uncharged particle interaction, but in the case of the charged particle interaction, we will be having large number of interactions with small energy losses. The uncharged particle interactions can't interact with the electron or nucleus. They have less interaction cross-section. They have zero rest mass of photon, and photons can't decelerate. But in the case of the charged particle interaction, they can interact with an atom even when the impact parameter is larger than the value by 3 or 4 orders of magnitude. More interaction cross-section happens in the case of charged particle interaction. Also, non-zero rest mass of the particle and the charger can decelerate. The uncharged particle interaction travels with light velocity, whereas the charged particle interaction, the velocity is comparable with respect to the light velocity. And in the case of the uncharged particle interaction, the energy loss per unit distance can't determine, that is why no meaning of stopping power and range. But here you have the definite energy loss per unit distance can be determined, which makes more importance of stopping power and range. So these two are the types of interactions which happens with the material when the radiations pass through.